in the event that you have been living under a rock for the last few days, let me explain to you what's going on. I'm sure that most of you know, maybe all of you know, there is a huge battle raging right now. It looks a lot like this on streets and street corners and out in front of the Supreme Court, and you have all of these people gathering together. The news just a couple of days ago broke. There was this leak of information from the Supreme Court that there was this possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. And in the event that you're not sure what that is, you probably all know. You're probably like, duh, everybody knows that. But Roe v. Wade is basically in 1973, Roe v. Wade passed, this law was passed that basically, essentially, what it did was it federally protected abortion. Abortion was legal across the United States. Any woman could have access to it. Go for it. Do it. Since then, millions upon millions of babies have been aborted. Okay, and so what's going on right now, and the reason that these people were yelling at each other is because that Roe v. Wade is there's the potential for it in the next 2 or 3 months to be overturned. In other words, taking power away from the federal government to have any say and giving it back to the states, so that each state can decide what it wants to do with, their voters can decide. So in California, we would decide, but over in Idaho, they would decide, and each state would decide on its own. So even if it's overturned, it doesn't mean that there's no more abortion, but we will see some huge, huge changes. Okay, there's lots of potential here for lots of different things to happen. Okay, but what we're going to do tonight is you are going to do your best to change my mind. So here's what I am going to do. I am going to tell you that I think that abortion should be legal, that it's a God-given right, that it is okay to abort a baby while it's still in the womb. And you have the opportunity right now, for the next few minutes, we don't have long, but you've got a few minutes to change my mind. And what I've done is I have called upon my trusty sidekick, Matt. He has set a microphone up for us just to make it a little scarier. Why did we do that? Did you hear that laugh? Why did we do that? Why did we do that? Because we want to be able to hear what you have to say. We want to get some clarity. We want to be able to take some notes. So you have an opportunity right now, again for the next few minutes, to change my mind, to give your proof for why abortion should not take place, why it's not a good thing, why it would be a good thing if Roe v. Wade was overturned. Anybody? You want to go up? Sure. Yeah? Would you go up to the mic for us? And that way we...
Mic back there?
Yes. Yeah. We... Here's why is the mic back there? I did that on purpose, and here's why. Because I know that some of you right now, you're shaking in your boots like, I want to say something, I know what to say, but I don't want everybody looking at me. Well, if you're at the back, nobody can see you. Okay? All they can see back of your head. Yes?
Are leaders allowed to participate?
No leaders. No leaders. Just students. We might throw in a leader or two before we close it up. Okay? Trinity, what is your name? That's Trinity back there. Go ahead. Tell us what's on your mind, on your heart.
Hello. So, I think that it would be a good thing because, like in states like, like Texas and like stuff like that, like you can, like already like see that they're gonna like want to go towards, like not like promoting that and stuff like that. I think that it will like help with the abortion like thing. And I hope California does that, but that's like very big no. But I honestly was the one that was living under the rock, so I can't really say much about this until I heard what you said. So.
Okay, so you did not know that that was going on.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't really exactly know what it
Weren't
was.
really okay. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Okay. Yeah. You want to give her a hand? Give her a hand. Give this lady a hand. Trinity, was that terrifying?
No.
Not really. You're kind of more like not a big deal. I'll go say something.
Yeah.
So, all right. There's no way it's going to pass in California, or nothing. The only thing that's going to change in California is we're going to open up California to the rest of the United States and tell everybody to come here and keep having your abortions. In fact, we'll even pay for it. So, anyone else? Anyone else want to try and change my mind? I think abortion it's a good thing. It helps the ladies stay out of trouble, especially for those ladies who are poor and they've gotten themselves into trouble. And I think that it should stay legal, and it's a good thing. And hopefully Roe v. Wade is not overturned. I saw a hand in the back. You want to get up? You're going to come to the all right. Okay. So when you come up, just introduce yourself and then go ahead and share.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I've never used a mic before.
You sound good. Yeah, it's a good thing.
So I believe abortion is technically never giving a baby a chance to live, which takes away their right. Even though you have rights, it takes away their right of living without even being able to speak up. And that's the same thing as saying, what if someone was mute with mute, deaf, and had no limbs? How would they communicate? How would they tell you that they wanted to live? So you're taking away their right to live without ever being able to communicate with them. And now they are scientifically taking abortions and putting them in other women that are not able to have children, and it is affecting their health. And it is not God's will for them to have children, so it ends up taking their life as well. So abortion is technically not only taking the life of one child, but it's taking the life of mothers or people who are not mothers, who cannot be. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, thank you very much. Yeah, give her a hand. How about if I said this? How about if I said, well, now, Kylie said that it's taking the life of this baby. But what if I were to say to you that, well, it's not really a baby, anyways. When it's in the mother's womb, it's just a mass of tissue. That's all it is. It's not really a person. So it's not like we're killing people here. Want to step up? Do it. Look at her. She's like, yep. Come on. All right. Tell us your name and then go ahead.
Hello, my name is Alyssa, and this is what I have to say. So, you're telling me that a baby inside the womb is just a mass of tissue or a clump of cells?
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, I personally believe as a Christian that life begins at conception. So, for example, what if you were to find, let's just say you were an astronaut, you were on a mission to Mars. What if you were to find life on Mars? And it was in the form of cells. Would you call that life? You just made a discovery, life on Mars. That's big. But it's a bunch of cells. Would you still call that life?
That is a great question. I had never thought about that before.
Also, we are in a pandemic right now. Well, some people still think we're in a pandemic at least. But yeah, anyways, this is a new one I heard today. Bacteria is also in the form of cells.
Yes.
And when bacteria dies, it is basically no longer existent. It cannot harm you. If you truly believe that bacteria can harm you, don't clean your desks. It's just a bunch of cells. It's dead.
I also had not thought about that before either. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That was awesome. Yeah? Yeah? nervous? Were you nervous up there at all? A little bit. Just, yeah, not much. What's that? Didn't sound like it. She got up there like, nah, sucker. Okay. I had never thought about that, but I mean, doctors, scientists have said that it's not a baby. You know, it's just a mass of, you know, just a clump of flesh in there, and it's not really anything. Yeah, in the back, young man. Yeah, you want to get up? Yeah, come on up to that mic, man. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what I just want to say was, I'm getting nervous now.
It's all right. Take a breath. You got to breathe and don't lock your knees because you'll pass out. And, we will check to make sure you're okay, but we'll probably be laughing at the same time.
Okay, so God has a plan for everyone before they're even born, you know? So that's just what I want to say.
Okay. All right. How do you know that? Yeah, come up there. Jump up there, young lady. Okay, tell us your name. And,
Okay, my name is Kirsten.
okay.
And I heard you say that abortion sometimes is like an easier option out, right? When like
Yeah,
they
that-
can't afford to take care of the child.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
or if the young lady's trying to finish up her education or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Be inconvenient to have a baby. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So personally, for me, I think that abortion is not the answer. I am actually adopted. So when I think you can't afford to take care of the child, you should at least bring the child to term, deliver the child, and if you can't afford for the needs of the child, or say you want to finish your education, put up the child for adoption. It's, you know, they can get a chance to find a home and a family that loves them. So for me, I could have been aborted, but my birth mom, even though she made some very terrible decisions and was on the streets and did drugs, but, you know, that's besides the point. She carried me to term, and she had the option to abort me, but, you know, she wanted to give me a second chance at life. So I think you should, you know, bring the child to term, and if you can't take care of him and you really don't want to be a parent at that time, put the child up for adoption. See what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
Oh, and yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you getting answers
I'm
from
getting
the?
coaching.
You got the teacher's edition over there.
Well, yeah, and my mom, she actually can't have kids. So when you put a child up for adoption, you give people that can't actually have kids the chance to, you know, have a family, and it was a real blessing for my mom. So there's 5 of us now. It went from 0 to 5. It's crazy.
From 0 to 5.
0 to 5.
Just add water.
Bam. Miracle.
Well, I'm glad that worked out for you real
Yeah.
well, but it doesn't work out that well for all of the kids that go up for adoption. So what about those kids that end up in a bad, you know, foster home or something like that? You know, what about those kids?
Well,
She's looking at Jerry Ann like, what do you got?
I need
Come
help.
on.
Well, I think that, you know, the kid that he came up here and then he ran away. But he made a point, you know, he said that God has a plan for every kid. So, you know, if they do end up in a bad situation, in a bad foster home where they're not necessarily taken care of or accepted into a family, you know, God still has a plan for them. He's still gonna, you know, give them a life that He's called for them to have.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
Okay, yeah. Consider it.
Yeah, I'll consider it.
Talk to me. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
I got you.
Okay, we got time for one more. Young man in the back. Would you step up to the mic there? What is your name?
Elijah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, people may think abortion's the easy way out, but when you really think about it, like I don't know why anybody hasn't brought this up yet, but it's still God's creation, and you're just basically destroying God's creation, and like something that could have been what He could have used in His plan, but you basically just took that away from Him, and you're basically taking away power from God and saying you're God in that moment by taking away that person's life or that little baby's life at that point. And really, if you think you can't take care of the baby or you don't want to, like you shouldn't be engaging in those kind of activities. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, like especially when you're in that kind of moment, like, but you should be able to think about that before you do something and realize what the consequences are of your actions.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question. How do you know that God has a plan for that baby?
well, we don't always know what the plan is, but God has a plan for everybody. Whether or not you are able to follow that plan or able to stick with God isn't always a thing, but God has a plan for everything, and everything happens for a reason because of God. And so even though it may not seem like it, God uses you in some way or another, whether or not you think he did or didn't.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll think about it. Nathan, you want to go? All right, come on up, man. We got time. We're going to squeeze you in, man. We're going to squeeze you in. We got to move quick, but go ahead.
Okay. Oh, dear. I got to stand up close to this thing. Oh,
That's
man.
right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to go off of my own thoughts and not try to chew off of what anybody else said, but I might as well just take this on a cross-examination basis. Originally, you started off by saying you believe abortion is a God-given right. I don't know if that was just, Chris, you just kind of messed up and you said a God-given right, but I very much so doubt that anybody, I'm like touching the mic. Okay, this is a problem.
And yelling at me. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just have a habit of speaking up. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
trying
go ahead.
not to like put my mouth on the. Yeah, it's kind of gross, you know.
God-given right.
So yeah, God-given right. That's kind of riddled with problems immediately. Not only is saying that it's a God-given right, stating that you're going off of a biblical basis in which, I mean, we can search several passages and I can, you know, it's very obvious that abortion is not correct in that sense. I mean, you knit me together in your mother's womb. It's very clear that.
What is that? What does that knit me together in my mother's womb? What's that?
It means that he had a little crochet thing.
I mean, where did you
know what I mean?
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that from?
I believe it was from Psalms, you know. It's fashioned in your mother's womb. He had your days planned beforehand. You're very clearly not, at least in a biblical sense, a clump of cells. Now, it would be kind of confusing to argue against someone, especially on a biblical basis, if they're saying there is no God. That's what I was thinking, because you're taking this, I guess, from a Christian pretense, or at least going from somewhat of a God-given right kind of thing. There's another thing where it's just like, a lot of people are saying abortion is the easy way out, when I feel like, I don't want to say that it's some kind of punishment, but there's very clearly, if you're not capable of having a child, you shouldn't, you know, take the actions that would result in a child. It's very, you know what's going to take place, and that's just the way that it is, you know. I don't know. That's just my answer. Particularly the first one that has to do with the.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was awkward. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Right, you trying to squeeze in there? Okay, make it quick, man. You got 1 minute. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Brent. I want to remove, as a lot of liberals like to do, I'll remove faith completely from the argument. Do you believe abortion is protected by the Constitution?
Of course I do.
It isn't, and there isn't anything found in the Constitution that will support that. And the Constitution delegates anything not supported or exclusively mentioned in the Constitution is to be delegated by the states. And that's what the Roe versus Wade bill overrode.
But they said on the news that it's in the Constitution. So,
Which news source?
I mean, all of them. MSN, CNN, all of them. All the good ones.
That's wonderful, sir. How much of your own research have you done on this?
Well, the news.
Have you read the Constitution?
Well, I've read little bits of it, I mean.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. You want to go up? Okay, go. Quick! You got 30 seconds. 30 seconds to make your case. Introduce yourself for us. Tell us what you got.
Okay, my name is Delilah, and I personally have been to an abortion protest, and in school right now I'm learning about meiosis and mitosis, and it's the cell growth. So a cell doubles and then it continues growing, right, for life. And that's with plants and all living things, and all living things do grow. So obviously its life is a baby is growing and regenerating cells. So and in the abortion protest, these are people from science, and they have their science backups. But if they're teaching that life starts with cell growth, then it's kind of controversial to itself.
I see your point.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I see your point. Okay, you good? Okay, all right. Give it up for Delilah. Okay, what we're going to do is man, it went fast. The time went quick. So I'm going to rip through some things here real quick, okay? So at first I was planning on having you turn to all of these things. You certainly are welcome to turn and try to keep up, but I am going to move quick. Let me show you a few things here. Obviously, you guys know that I think that that Roe v. Wade overturning, if it overturns, would be phenomenal. I mean, that would be obviously, absolutely historic, and it would be a wonderful thing. It would save the lives of potentially millions of people. So, we're going to do two things real quickly. We want to decide, we need to know what we believe, and then we need to know how to discuss what we believe. Okay, so we're going to look at those rapid fire. Now, here's the first thing. When we say know what we believe, and here's why we're doing this, is because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. And do you know what it is that you believe? And if you know, once you find that out, or if you already know, are you able to articulate that in a good way, in a helpful way? So we need to know what we believe. And there's just two things that I put up here, and I'm going to go ahead and put them both up here. Life is sacred, and then life begins before birth. Before the baby is born. Okay, that's what the Bible teaches. Remember, we have a biblical viewpoint. Those of you that were here a few months back for the Against the Current series, we talked about having a biblical viewpoint. That's what we have as Christians. Now, so for the first one, life is sacred. In Genesis chapter 4, the 4th chapter of the book, okay, Cain did something to Abel. What did he do? Killed him. And here's what God said. God says in Genesis chapter 4, and he said, he's talking to Cain. He says, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. So immediately God teaches Cain that life is sacred. Because when Cain took his brother's life, he faced punishment from God. So it's teaching us that God holds life to be sacred. Okay? Let me give you another one. Those of you that have been here with us in Leviticus, if you're taking notes, you can jot down Leviticus 18:21. God says, and you shall not let any of your descendants, that means your kids, your children, pass through the fire to Molech. He was telling them, you are not supposed to sacrifice your children. Do not kill your children. Don't give your children to Molech. He repeats the same thing in Leviticus 20, verses 1 through 5. Tells them the same thing. Leviticus 18:21, and then again in Leviticus chapter 20, verses 1 through 5. He's telling them the same thing. You're not to give your children, you're not to kill your children. And in Leviticus 20, he actually says, he who gives any of his descendants to Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. So God actually said everybody else is responsible for judging that individual. It teaches us that life is sacred. God holds life to be sacred. Okay? Now, there are other places that we can go to, look at other passages. I'm giving you a few quick ones so that just, to get you started. Okay? The second thing is that we believe that life begins before birth. Okay? Psalm 139, somebody mentioned. I think that it was O'Neill that mentioned this. Psalm 139, David said this, you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. He goes on to say, my frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret. Now keep in mind that David's a poet. He's using the language of a poet here. That's how he's describing it. But he says, when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth, your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. So David pointing out that there was life there in the womb before he was ever even born. What David was saying was that life began when his obviously when his mom and dad hooked up, but it was God the whole time that was orchestrating that and making David. That's what he's acknowledging. That's why we believe that life, that baby, that mass of tissue in there, that's a life. That's a baby. From the point of conception. Doesn't have to be born in order to be considered a life. So that's why we believe that, okay? Now let's go through the quick one. There's a lot of them here. I'll go through them quickly again. But we want to know how to discuss our beliefs. I like what all of you came up. You were very polite. This is a safe place for you to do this. You got up. You were very polite. You shared what was on your mind and your heart. You may have been nervous. I couldn't tell. But even if you were nervous, you still did it in a respectful way. You guys are on the right track. There's going to be a bunch of B. We're going to start with be not afraid. Now, if you're taking notes, again, 1 Peter chapter 3, beginning at verse 14. He says, but even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, because that's what a lot of us are scared of. Like, I don't want to stand up and say anything because people might not like me. He says, but even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you are blessed. And do not be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. You say, that's easier for you to say, Peter, you're not here. But be not afraid. God's with us, okay? The next thing in verse 15, there's 3 of them. Be ready, be meek, and be respectful. He says, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts. In other words, get God in the right place in your heart, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. And then he mentions with meekness, and he says fear. It doesn't mean to be afraid of the people. What he means is be respectful of those people. Okay? Do it with meekness. That means a gentle spirit, a quiet spirit. You know, we watched the video at the beginning, people screaming at each other on the street corner. It accomplishes absolutely nothing. It accomplishes absolutely nothing. Remember that the point of discussing these things is to win the heart, not to win the argument. Win the heart. You win the if all you focus on is winning the argument, you're going to lose. Even if you win the argument, you've lost the heart. It's no good. We want the heart. Okay? He goes on to say this. If you're taking notes, here's the next. What else do we got? We got B. Yes. In 2 Timothy chapter 2. 2 Timothy chapter 2, also starting at verse 14. 1 Peter 3 started at verse 14. 2 Timothy 2 starts at verse 14. Be peaceful. Again, people screaming at each other in there, it accomplishes nothing. All it does is make everybody angry. The people that were out there on that street corner screaming at each other, they weren't there to really help anybody. They're just out there, they're frustrated, they're screaming, and they're just trying to be heard. Okay? Changes are going to be made when we're willing to sit down and peacefully discuss things with people. Okay? So in 2 Timothy 2, Paul wrote this. He says, remind them of these things, charging them before the Lord. Here's the be peaceful part. Not to strive about words to no profit, to the ruin of the hearers. In other words, if all you're doing is fighting over terminology and screaming at each other, nobody wins. Okay? He goes on to say in verse 15, he tells us, here's the next set, still the same thing, still the same heading. He tells them to be diligent. Be diligent to present yourselves approved to God. What he means by that, and earlier we read that we should always be ready. It means that you should study up on the subject. Find out what it is that you believe, why we believe what we believe. Those are, we want to know what we believe and why we believe it. Strengthens our faith, but it also helps us to explain to others, to share with them. Okay? But he goes on to say, be diligent and study. And then beginning in verse 16, he tells them to be careful. Be careful. He says, but shun profane and idle babblings, for they will increase to more ungodliness. In other words, just babbling and yelling out things and just saying things, it does not have any kind of effect. It's just going to lead to more and more frustration and confusion and ungodliness. He actually goes on to say in verse 17 that their message will spread like cancer. So it's no good. We have to be willing or able to respectfully discuss these things. We skip down a little bit in 2 Timothy chapter 2 to verse 24, where he tells us 3 more things. Be gentle, be patient, and be humble. He says, and a servant of the Lord must not quarrel. So don't fight. Be gentle. But be gentle to all. That means even people who have a different idea than you. Able to teach. It means that I need to have a teachable heart. A heart that's willing to listen and even learn and understand someone's thoughts and ideas. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but I'm willing to hear you out. Let's just peacefully talk about this. And then the last thing is be patient. And a servant of the Lord, that's what we want to be, must not quarrel, but be gentle to all, able to teach, patient. The last couple things, verses 25 and 26, he says to be humble and be hopeful. In humility, be humble, correcting those who are in opposition. We do want to correct them. Why? If God perhaps will grant them repentance so that they may know the truth and that they may come to their senses and escape the snare of the devil, having been taken captive by him to do his will. So we want to be humble, and then as we're sharing these things, we want to do so hopefully. We're hoping that this individual that we are calmly, respectfully talking to, sharing our beliefs with, that they'll begin to change their mind and understand the truth. That's the hope. We're not trying to win an argument, win a war, spread more hate. That's the last thing that we want to do. We're God's people. We're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be peacemakers. Peacemakers. That's what we're supposed to do. It's a hard balance because these are some hard issues, and they're things that we believe in strongly, and we believe that there are a lot of people that think wrong on this issue. But our job is not to go out there and try to make these people feel as stupid as we can. But our job is to go out and to help them see the truth, because right now many of them are believing